Oh hey, just me here with my Himalayan pink salt that's supposed to be much lower in sodium. If this is you, like this was me a couple years ago, believe it or not, then you might want to watch this video on the common mistakes we make with sodium. For many of us entering our vibrant 40s and beyond, health could never be more critical of a focus. We start to be concerned about things such as our muscle mass loss, our osteoporosis, fall prevention, and also hypertension. Now, high blood pressure, aka hypertension, is not just an issue in the United States, it is a crisis globally. Now, one key factor that you might not be thinking about in preventing high blood pressure and just in general making sure that you have a healthy weight as well, which we'll touch on in a bit, is to limit the sodium that you're eating. Now, immediately you're gonna think, okay, so I stopped dumping it on my food, or worse, okay, I'll just put a little bit less on. But there are some key mistakes you are making with sodium that I'm going to cover. Before I go into about how much we end up eating of this, let me explain to you what sodium is in the first place. In a nutshell, sodium is a mineral and it is an electrolyte, and it is critical for our body to function properly. From balancing fluids to maintaining proper muscular function, sodium does it all. But not alone. Like everything, things are about balance, and sodium works in sync with other electrolytes in the body, including potassium, just to name one of several. These electrolytes throughout the day need to be consumed in a balance, and we don't really do that well in our society. Let me give you some stats. The American Heart Association recommends a lower limit of no more than 1,500 milligrams of sodium per day. And then here's the catch. They have an upper limit of 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day. This is quite humorous to me because, and I'm not condoning speeding on the roads, but it is like another speed limit. You've got the main speed limit that everyone says, okay, we're going 75 miles per hour. And then we have that other person that says, but we don't get a ticket unless we're going 10 miles over or more. And that's not what we want to be like with eating sodium. Reason being is that the average sodium consumption per day for the average American is 3,400 milligrams of sodium per day. That is more than a 48% increase in consumption over the upper limit, aka the criminal speed. Now that brings me back to the main mistakes of sodium consumption. Reason number one, misinterpreting the source of your sodium. Starting with this, comparing the different table salts. Yes, the iodized table salt is going to have a much higher sodium than sea salt and much higher sodium than Himalayan pink salt. But realistically, they're all high. Just to compare some averages. In a quarter teaspoon, which is that big. Not much. Basically the size of my ring finger. Very, very small amount. In regular salt on the table, this is about 590 milligrams. So if you're just adding this little bit in a serving in your meal, that's 590 milligrams. Take it down to sea salt. On average, you might be between 550 milligrams and 575, depending on the brand. So check the label. Then we go over to this Himalayan pink salt. For some people, including myself, this turns into, oh, it must be magical. It must just have no sodium in it at all. And I could just dump as much of it as I want in all of my food. No, I did that a lot in my past life before I educated myself. And thus this little bit is 460 milligrams of sodium. Okay? So there's, just to put that into context, that you are still going to get a lot and it adds up significantly. But that's still not the main culprit of the source of the salt or sodium in our food. In fact, processed and restaurant foods can account for more than 75% of our daily sodium. So this is before you decide to dump any salt on the meal. It's already in the food. Let's do a few examples. Exhibit A, just chicken breast, has nothing in it at all. And this one is good because it wasn't soaked in salt, which a lot of meats are soaked in salt. So that way it can cause more water retention because sodium can cause water retention, meaning it helps with the fluid balance. And that in turn can make your meat way more, which makes the company's profit better. So this one is not soaked in a bunch of salt to make the cells of the meat that you end up consuming seem like they weigh more, because there's a bunch of water in it because of the sodium. This one, per serving, only has 45 milligrams of sodium. That's pretty low, but remember, that's per serving. There's about 4 servings per container, so read the label. Now let's go to another meat. That one doesn't even have a label. And this is smoked salmon. I love it, but it's packed with sodium. If your food says smoked, it's probably loaded with sodium. And pretty bad. Doesn't have a label, but I looked it up. On average, 100 grams of smoked salmon has about 672 milligrams of sodium per serving. So be mindful of how much you're eating and make sure your food has a label, or if it doesn't, look it up. Plant-based things also have a lot of sodium, if not more. Per 1 patty of the Beyond Meat plant-based burger, we see 390 milligrams per patty, and that's without any condiments added to it. And I'm not downing on anybody who's plant-based. I eat these. I just have to mitigate and balance my diet and make sure that I don't have too much sodium throughout the day if I eat this. But it's not just that. It's in things like protein powder, also plant-based. This one per serving has 210 milligrams of sodium. I didn't add any extra salt to this meal, but if you add this product that is processed, you simply will be adding and increasing the amount of sodium you're consuming across the day. And here's a fun one: peanut butters or nut butters. I have a peanut allergy, so this is why you see sun butter here. 110 milligrams of sodium per serving, which is 2 tablespoons. So as you can see, again, it's going to add up across the day. So there's a big mistake number 1 with your sodium: misinterpreting the source. Mistake number 2, falling for the reduced sodium labels. Reduced sodium might sound healthier, but it basically just means that the product has 25% less sodium than the original. So for example, if you have a brand of ketchup and it is not labeled reduced sodium, then the reduced sodium 25% might still be over 600 milligrams of sodium. So one more time, check the label. You may start recognizing a pattern here. Mistake number 3, not recognizing hidden sources. Now that's a little bit related to the misinterpreting the source, but the other hidden sources might be in cereals, it might be in breads, and another thing to consider, those electrolyte powders or electrolytes or sport drinks that you like to consume. So many people drink electrolytes for taste and for the sugar rush after a workout, but they're not drinking them because of need. If you are sweating buckets, you should consider an electrolyte. However, if you do not sweat much during your workout, if at all, you definitely do not need to be consuming electrolyte powders. This is for people who are dumping buckets of sweat, but in general, you need to be aware of how much water loss you have during your workout. So if you're losing a lot of water, which a lot of general exercisers don't, they do not need an electrolyte. The reason I am bringing this up is because electrolyte powders are meant to replenish lost electrolytes, sodium being one of them. So for popular brands such as Liquid IV, which fortunately they do say that it is not for taste, it is for a purpose, and I appreciate that they say that on the label. On here, you will find that per packet or 1 stick, there's 510 milligrams of sodium. Now, one thing that I don't particularly like about this one is that the potassium is only 380 milligrams. The potassium balance throughout our day needs to be significantly higher than the sodium. So for individuals that sometimes overconsume sodium drastically, I recommend this one. This particular electrolyte has almost no sodium in it. And yes, it's more for people that are on a keto diet. They're not getting the amount of potassium that they need. But realistically, I like this one for individuals that are over-consuming salt. The reason I say this is because it can help with fluid retention. If we have a lot of water retention from way too much sodium, consuming some of this, the serving size, can be helpful. In general, I strongly recommend trying to cut down on your sodium rather than relying on the potassium balance only. Last but not least, mistake number 4, overlooking water softeners. Your water softener that you're using could be adding more sodium to the water you are drinking. If this is the case, I recommend opting for a potassium-based salt softener rather than sodium-based. Check the sodium in your bottled waters as well. You may find that there is an amount of sodium in your water, and ideally, we really don't want this. So an actionable step you can take on that one is consider using a separate faucet or a water filter such as a Berkey or a Brita to filter your drinking and cooking water from the stuff that you use to clean dishes. As a functional aging specialist, I cannot stress enough the importance of a healthy, balanced diet and a solid exercise program in ensuring that we avoid comorbidities and diseases that can impact our vitality in our mature years. Elevated sodium intake across the day has been linked to high blood pressure, which is a risk factor for heart disease. And the last thing I'll leave you with is don't suddenly jump to make a significant change. Make small changes along the way. You want to know where your starting point is first. So that's why I strongly recommend tracking your intake. Don't make assumptions about you and your body. Know what you are consuming. Gain a baseline of how much sodium you are getting per day. Track your intake across 7 days. Yes, this takes effort. This takes commitment, and you're worth it. So you owe yourself that amount of time. Focus on what you're consuming. See where you're getting the foods from. Are they primarily processed? Are they primarily meats? Are there not enough protein in your diet? These are a lot of comprehensive things that you need to look at in your own consumption patterns. And you can't just get a quick fix. If somebody's telling you, here's the way, eat like this cookie cutter diet, then you better run because it's wrong for you. It may be wrong for you at least. And you want to make sure that you know if it is. If you're ever feeling overwhelmed, I do offer one-on-one training. So click the link in the description. You can get a 15-minute free consultation if I still offer those, and maybe in the future when I no longer offer those. But I do have pre-made programs as well that are tailored to you. So they're not cookie cutter. I do ask a in-depth, comprehensive series of questions to make sure that you get the right program for you, nutrition and training as well. So I do recommend them together. So I'll leave you with seek a balance, make informed choices, and remember, your health is an investment, not an expense. I'll see you in the next one.